No visit to Philmont Scout Ranch is complete without a visit to the Villa Philmonte, the 1927 vacation home of Philmont benefactors Waite and Genevieve Phillips. While on a villa tour, you are always sure to learn something new about the history of the ranch and find at least one item on display that catches your interest. From the self-playing piano in the living room to the collection of animal heads and skins in the trophy room. Even somewhat bizarre items like the seven-headed shower dubbed the human car wash or Waite's exercise machine, the jiggler, are guaranteed to wow and amuse at least some. But without a doubt, the one item remembered by each and every participant, staff member, and visitor that passes through the big house is the hand-painted stained glass window that graces the upstairs landing. Learn more about this spectacular piece of Philmont history on this edition of Artifact of the Week. Born in Torricella, Italy in 1871, Nicola D'Ascenzo immigrated to the United States with his family in 1882 at the age of 11. Settling in Philadelphia, D'Ascenzo worked as a muralist in his teens, taking night classes at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts and later attending the Pennsylvania Museum School of Industrial Art from 1891 to 1893. In 1894, D'Ascenzo and his wife, Myrtle Dell Goodwin, moved to Italy, where he studied at the Scuola Libera in Rome. The couple then returned to Philadelphia in 1896, where D'Ascenzo worked as a portrait painter and shortly thereafter opened his own business, D'Ascenzo Studios. Initially a thriving interior design firm, D'Ascenzo dabbled in stained glass on his own for several years and eventually studied the technique at the New York School of Design before incorporating stained glass into his business operations. He completed his first stained glass commission in 1904, buying glass from local manufacturers before later starting to make his own. Eventually, stained glass manufacturing became a key part of D'Ascenzo Studios' business, and D'Ascenzo windows could soon be found everywhere from private residences and businesses to churches, synagogues, and other public buildings. This included famous landmarks like the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., the Washington Memorial Chapel in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, Riverside Church in New York City, and the Nipper Building, home to the RCA Victor Company in Camden, New Jersey. Between 1904 and D'Ascenzo's death in 1954, D'Ascenzo Studios completed more than 7,800 stained glass windows. D'Ascenzo himself received numerous awards and distinctions for his work, including a medal at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, the 1925 Gold Medal from the Architectural League of New York, and second prize for craft work at the 1916 Americanization Through Art exhibition in Philadelphia. He even served as president of the Stained Glass Association of America from 1929 to 1930. Given D'Ascenzo's prominence in the early 1900s, it is no surprise that the Phillips family also wished to incorporate multiple pieces of his work into their residences in Tulsa and Cimarron. The Villa Philbrook became home to a massive 8.5-foot by 4-foot stained glass window titled Dante and Beatrice, along with a smaller window called the Hunt. The Villa Philmonte also had a smaller D'Ascenzo window installed in Waite's dressing room, portraying St. George slaying a dragon. But the Villa Philmonte's true D'Ascenzo highlight would be installed on the stairway landing between the second and third floors. The Phillips family were lovers of history, and when designing their new vacation home, made sure to include artistic nods to the past throughout. Built directly on top of the Santa Fe Trail, a trade route that ran from Independence, Missouri to Santa Fe, New Mexico, beginning in 1821, the Villa Philmonte was a perfect place to include a tribute in glass to that highway of commerce, and the era it defined. Depicted in the triptych centerpiece window D'Ascenzo created for the villa are travelers and wagons coming down that old trail while a group of Native Americans look on, surrounded by a striking southwestern landscape and sky. Tanaha Mesa, a local landmark, can be seen in the background, while dramatic cloud formations fill the sky above and local fauna dot the prairie below. While the glass itself is stained, much of the detail was achieved through hand painting and kiln firing. At the very top of the center panel is a Plains Native American teepee. Above it, the Phillips family's distinctive UU bar cattle brand can also be seen, depicted as part of a wagon yoke, a U-shaped wooden frame commonly used on the trail to hitch pairs of draft animals to the wagons they were pulling. While the villa was under construction, it was said that a similar yoke was uncovered during excavation of the site. Waite wanted to display it prominently in the building once it was completed, but Genevieve protested. A compromise was struck, and an artistic version of the yoke was incorporated into their new window. The old yoke, meanwhile, was converted into a chandelier and hung in the Cimarroncito hunting lodge. Despite the beautiful detail with which the window was created, it is important to note that it still depicts several, often stereotypical inaccuracies regarding the history, people, and landscape of the Cimarron region. Most infamously, a saguaro cactus can be seen at the base of the mesa. Although commonly associated with the Southwest, saguaros are native only to Arizona and would never be found anywhere along the Santa Fe Trail's 800-plus mile length. If you happen to see one while you're on your visit to New Mexico, you may want to consider checking your map or drinking some water. Another issue is the way the Native Americans are depicted. Although northeastern New Mexico was and still is home to many native groups, including the Jicarilla Apache, the Ute, the Comanche, and the Puebloans, none would have dressed like this. Loincloths, such as the ones worn by the men depicted here, would have not provided sufficient protection from the scorching sun, cold evenings, and other harsh weather. Similarly, the design of the cloak worn by the most prominent Native American figure is more reminiscent of something that may have been worn by groups further east as opposed to what is now New Mexico. Finally, the wagon train itself is completely inaccurate, portraying both the wrong type of wagons and the wrong type of animals pulling them. The prairie schooners pictured here were more akin to a U-Haul truck, something more commonly seen to move the personal belongings of families along routes like the Oregon Trail. In contrast, the Santa Fe Trail was a trade route rather than an immigration trail. As a result, much larger Conestoga wagons, akin to a Walmart semi-truck, would have been the go-to for hauling goods back and forth. Given their larger sizes, horses would not have been able to manage the extra weight and stress. Instead, traders relied on burlier oxen to make the journey. Despite these inaccuracies, the piece remains a stunning work of art and, dare I say, an interesting window into the Phillips family's history and legacy. On your next visit to the Villa Philmonte, I hope you'll get to enjoy this stunning piece of art for yourself too. That's all the time we have this week. Join us next time as we continue to learn more about the history of Scouting America and Philmont Scout Ranch through the collections of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.